There you go. Good morning, everybody. Herbert, you're not in the back.
Good morning.
Good morning. Everybody, we're just not quite at 10 o'clock, so we'll just give it a few more minutes and then we'll get going. Everybody gonna watch the Canadian soccer team today, 3 o'clock,
No,
in case you weren't aware. Oh, wow.
I don't have cable, so or satellite.
Crave has, I don't know if you have Crave or not.
Crave will have it. Actually, who will have it? You pretty well stream it anywhere if you want to watch it. There are ways, but I know that Brown Social House where I'm going, they will have it on many TVs. So, okay. We're just admitting a few more people and then we should be good to go. How are we doing there, Jake? We're all,
Yeah.
everybody?
Yeah, these are just,
Okay. Okay, well, just a reminder, a couple of reminders for everybody. July 17th, Friday, July 17th is our company get together at Woodbine Racetrack. It starts from 1 p.m., goes from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. And it is at the Stella, this will be in the notice anyways, I'm going to put it out again, but it's in the Stella Artois Lounge on the 3rd floor. First post time is 1:20. Food is going to begin, drinks and food are all included. So drinks will start right away. Food's going to start around 1:30-ish. If you can RSVP to Nadine or myself before July 3rd, just so we know how much food to order and set up. Okay. Everybody will get, upon arrival, you get a $2 voucher that you can go place a bet on any horse, any color, any name you decide. It's always fun. It's in a different section than where they renovated the whole place. The other aspect of it, if you have not been to Woodbine Racetrack, and if you are inclined, they have this pretty fancy casino now attached to the racetrack. So if anybody's interested after that, they've got a beautiful hotel, they've added some restaurants. Thanks, it'll be a fun day at the track. But please RSVP, even if you can't go, just so I know who can, who's coming, and what numbers I need to set aside for, let them know on food. Okay? And some of you already have responded, so thank you. And if you want to bring a guest, let us know. That's fine. Okay, as well. So, so again, Friday, July 17th. Going to be a fun day. It's always fun there. Another date to let everybody know about. I know I mentioned it last week, but I have officially leased out our space at Cancross to a pediatric medical center on a 15-year lease plus 2 5-year renewals, so 25-year possibility, 25-year lease. Very rare to come across that kind of tenant. So we are moving back to Sherwood Town, but in a different space. It's going to be on the 4th floor, smaller space. Obviously finding that not a lot of agents come in the office, so we don't need that. And I'm pretty close to renting out our other space to another company that needed bigger space. Anyway, so those are 2 announcements just to share with everybody. But if you and that move for back to Sherwood Town will be completed before July 15th. So fast. So I was there today. They're working on painting, putting the floor down, putting in a new kitchenette kind of thing. Yeah, I'm excited to get back to having underground parking. So, which is good. My gym is there in the same building, which is good. Harder to have an excuse not to go when you're not in the building. It's traffic's bad, can't get there. So that's pretty excited to have both those things taken care of. What's the market? What do you guys find the market's doing? Before I've got topics I'm gonna cover today, but let's just do it in reverse and just what challenges this week, or what new listings, or what you see in the marketplace, no matter which areas, because I've talked to people from all over. Gotcha.
I think what I'm noticing, prices are all over the place. So some agents put in, the lower price, accepting multiple offers and stuff, but some people are doing that, but their still expectation is to expect a quite high number, which is above market value. So I think those listings are sitting and then they realize they don't get the offers, then they jack up the price, right? Like 2 weeks out of the road. It's giving a little bit wrong signal to the buyers in my mind, because they think it's in their price range as soon as they see the asking price, right? But actually it's not. So it's a process. Then we have to work with the buyer and explain them what's going on, what they're trying to do. But and talking to other agents also helps, definitely, because that gives us some idea like what they're comparing it to, what's happening. But it's like, what I'm noticing is, I mean, I put an offer on a house in Hamilton, but two similar houses on the same street, one guy is listed for 490, the other house is listed for 420. So, and the 490 guy wants 490, and 420 lady is willing to negotiate. You know what I mean? So there's
Yep.
a lot of opportunity there in that regard. But it's like, if same buyer is looking at two houses, why would somebody pay 490, right? I mean, I don't get that. But the agent's rationale was it was sold condition at 540 like just 2 months ago, and financing fell through, and now he's trying to get 490.
Yeah. But that's why the research into like, you gotta check out what's going on in the neighborhoods, because you're absolutely right. Like, Herbert and I were talking about a place in Brampton the other day, and it's just like the one down the street just sold for 100 grand less. And they put this one up, and they're similar properties.
Yeah.
But it, and even the appointment that I went on yesterday in Georgetown, longtime client of mine, actually I sold it to them 20 years ago. And the reason I'm bringing up some of this stuff is it was like they call and go, we're not thinking of moving right now, but we're looking at doing some stuff around the house, and we don't want to do stuff that is going to be not beneficial to selling, such as they're looking at changing bathroom cabinetries and things like that, and just more of a walkthrough and looking at what they could or couldn't do. But the house right behind them, which is similar, a little bit smaller but similar, has been for sale. People bought it 4 years ago. So let's see, you go back 4 years from 2026, put you in 2022, and they paid $1,150,000 for it. And then I said, yeah, that's $1,150,000. I said, simple math, unless they've gone in and done a bunch of stuff, simple math is take 20% off. That's probably where the value is today. And my clients, and this is interesting because they're two sisters in the late 60s, and they knew everything about that property because of online information. They said, oh yeah, they started at this number, then they came down to this number, then they canceled the listing and brought it out at this number. Now it's at this number. And so one of the things I want to talk about today, and we'll get into it in a minute, is when you're going to talk to the sellers about moving or doing stuff, we're going to cover a lot of that off today, because I think there needs to be a different strategy than what lots of agents are doing. Okay. But where I was going with this is, absolutely, Gautam, you're right. There are properties that in a subdivision, prices are all over the place. Consumers, though, and agents, they're looking for the deal. They're looking for who is the motivated seller, and all the different things that are out there. How are you determining who the motivated sellers are? If you're the buyer agent, what are you doing? You better be picking up the phone and calling the agent. Don't just rely on the comments in the listing, right? Look at the history of that listing. Make sure you go back and just see like how long's it been for sale? When did the people buy? It's that communication can make or break what deal where you're going to start submitting your offers versus, wasting time. Especially like you're saying, Gautam, in a situation where one's 490, well, it's good that you communicated to find out, yeah, well, we had it sold for 540 conditionally. That's a hard stumbling block to get out of somebody's mind when it only happened a couple months ago, right? That seller, the one at 490, or sorry, 420 now that you're talking about, if there's some flexibility, what's it going to take? What's the difference between that one and the one for 490? How much more can they put into it? Does the buyer even have the money to put into it if it needs it? Where's your buyer at with that?
Yeah, we negotiated it conditionally purchased now with my buyer at 415, that 421, right? So
Great.
because actually the buyer ended up liking that house even better than that other renovated house too, based on the price, and because it fitted her range was not to go past 430 anyways. So 490 was out of her range, and I said that wouldn't even qualify for your mortgage and stuff, right? So
yeah. So that's great, but you got that information because of asking questions of the agents.
Yeah.
Right? Really, really important. Like that is something that, and you as the listing agent, make sure you put out there that you're open to have conversations. Like in your broker remarks, I would be putting something in that says, call me for any other questions. Like, don't hide behind the fact. Yeah, Julia.
I've seen some listings say in the broker note saying, call me, I'm nice. Like, I thought it was really cute, and it's true. I mean, I know who these agents are, and they are really nice, and I've dealt with them before, but it just really changes the relationship from the beginning when you're that open right in the broker notes. I wanted to add, so I'm at a home inspection for my buyer client right now, and that's why I'm sitting on the front porch, and that agent would not speak to me on the phone. And
Wow.
I asked him questions, and all the answers were less than 5 words. Very, very no communication. It was kind of funny, but
jeez,
you have to
be
do what
fair,
you
you're
have to
very
do.
intimidating, Julia. So there you go.
I'm so intimidating. That's what it is. Yeah,
In a
of
similar
course.
vein, there's an agent out my way who on all his listings says, absolutely do not call me. I will only respond to emails, which is just so.
I was yelled at once for calling an agent. He didn't put his cell phone on, and I found it online, and I called him, and he reamed me out. I'm like, sorry, dude.
respond to your communication is the only way you're going to move transactions forward. That's something to keep in mind. Okay, really, really important. So, what else is going on? What else is going on in the different areas? I'm still seeing activity. I am seeing sold signs. I am also seeing a variety of prices all over the map, depending on like taking into, different subdivisions, looking at what's going on. Definitely seeing a variety of transactions, which gets down to you got to dig out the motivated sellers. That's where, and there are deals out there. You just got to dig into them. You got to find them. You got to communicate with the agents, and really to get the understanding of, what the buyer, what are the sellers looking for, why they moving, and find those motivated people, because that's where the deals are. Okay. Anybody get any new listings over the last week? Want to share about any transactions? Congratulations on those conditional sales, you two. That's pretty exciting.
I submitted that offer yesterday.
Yeah.
It's going to be a tough one because we're dealing with seniors, 30 years in that home. They upgraded the 2 bathrooms, the kitchen, so they feel that, hey, we did the proper upgrade, so this is the value. It's going to be most likely not going to go through because it just came on the market, so they don't know yet what's happening. But every single home that I have visited with my clients, number one, has not sold, and this has been over a month now. And number two, nothing has sold for over 900,000, at least the homes that we were looking at. And just the examples I sent you, Scott, those have not sold for over 9. So for this particular home listed at 965, it's going to be really tough. Most likely it's going to be a no. The agent messaged me. She's like, how did you come to this number? Like, we're so far apart. And I sent her a screenshot of what you sent me of the comparables because this is the number. So we'll see. I mean, she's communicating with me right now via text, saying, oh, this is going to be tough. I don't know if this is going to happen. And it's like, do your best. We'll see.
Yeah. Good. And sometimes it's time, right? Sometimes sellers need time. They think time could be in their favor, and lots of times it's not.
And
Right.
one thing which is very disheartening is every single agent that I've spoken to, when I go and show a home to my clients, I'll submit a feedback. I give a feedback, and the amount of agents calling me back going, thank you so much. It's so refreshing. Number one, that you picked up your phone, and number two, that you left me a feedback. It's so refreshing because they're like, I have been so frustrated with no communication. Nobody's calling me. Nobody's giving me feedback. And my clients are asking me, well, what did they say about the house? And nothing. So
Yeah. Good. Hey, I keep preaching it, and I'm glad that you folks are doing it. Communicating with that agent is so important, especially from the buyer side. When you're representing the buyer and for feedback, just doesn't take long to do it. But I got to tell you, it can go a long way. And all of a sudden, that agent has another listing that you might be interested in. I can tell you, I remember the agents that I'm talking with and who's communicating. I also remember the ones that don't even respond. So, okay. This is a relationship business, not just with buyers and sellers, but with agents. Don't forget that. Okay. Okay, so now here's the topic for today. When you do your listing presentation, when you're going in on a listing presentation, talking to somebody about buying and selling, are you going in presenting it as your credentials, your history, or are you actually going to go in and present to the seller why you can get that house sold because you know the buyer's psyche? Which one are you doing?
Buyer psyche.
Buyer psyche? How do you present that?
I'm just reading the article.
You're reading the article? Okay. Okay. Good answer. But anybody? How are you doing it?
I think you have to talk from the experience of how buyers are reacting to the current market and
Right.
how sellers are presenting and how the market is reading what they're presenting, and come up with an understanding of what's going through their head and what moves them in this direction or that direction. Also inserting, time value of learning what incentive is, with time value. There's a lot of little things that you get cues from talking to people and watching the market, and I think that's an intriguing way to show a potential listing, that you have your eye on the psychology of the deal.
Yes. Good point. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. most listing presentations and agents that will go in to present, they believe their strongest presentation is how many years they've been in the business. Here's my credentials. I'm a good communicator. I'm a good negotiator. Here's my success. And unfortunately, what happens is majority of the agents, when they do a listing presentation, they all do the same. They talk about their credentials. They talk about their company. They talk about, here's how we communicate. Here's how we, do a bit of home staging. We could offer home staging. We can offer. And if every agent's doing the same presentation that way, what's it come down to how the seller's going to make a decision?
Who they like the most.
Possibility, who they like the most. What else?
Price.
Exactly what I was going to say. And who connects, who bonds.
Yeah. Except here's the issue. If you are only talking about your credentials, talking about your longevity in the business, and if you're not in the business a long time, just talking about, I'm a good negotiator, I'm this, it'll come down to where the sellers will basically look at and going, they're all telling me the same thing, but this one over here is telling me they can get me a higher price. Who do you think they're listing with? It could be price. Okay. So how do you avoid that?
That's what I'm wondering, because I've lost 2 listings because I came in and showed them the comparables. Where do you think your house fits? Look at this one. And I've lost listings because they have listed with other agents who went in way higher because they were told, yeah, I can get you a higher number, I'm assuming. And, I lose out.
Yeah.
Normally I normally don't, because most of my clients are referrals, but when I do explain to them, in case I know that they're interviewing other agents, I'll tell them other agents may offer you a higher selling price or listing price, but make sure they show you what I'm showing you. I've emailed you all their comparables.
Yeah.
And these are the values. So if somebody says, oh, you can get 200,000 more, yeah, ask them for proof. And that's where they get you. I said, although they get you on a contract, 2, 3, 4 months, and then during that time when it doesn't sell, they'll ask for a reduction anyway. Then eventually you'll say, okay, I have to reduce, otherwise it won't sell. So
Right.
why not list it at the right price from the beginning?
Yeah.
And avoid all the headaches of agents lying to you.
So what you're doing in your presentation, you're talking about, first of all, you got to find out if you are any other agents, are they interviewing other agents? Secondly, you've got to really ask the question, what is it that you're looking for in an agent? You just want an agent to come in here and give you the highest price, and that's who you're going to go with? Don't be afraid to ask that question. Because when you go in, you want to know that. Like I've said to sellers, look, if you're interviewing all these agents, you're just looking for the highest price. There's sites out there where you can just post your listing and go, give me an idea how much you're going to sell my house for, who's going to bid for it. If that's what you're looking for, then I wish you well. That's not me. And I'm going to tell you, there will be agents that will tell you, yes, I can get you this big number. And the issue is they're basically going to say, all we got to do, we put it on the market. There's buyers out there. It might take time. And they're going to put it on a price. Then you're going to get a little more motivated. They're going to then say to you, oh, the market didn't do what we thought it was going to do. So we're going to have to adjust the price. If that's somebody you want to deal with, I wish you well. So let me know now before we waste the next hour and a half going through my presentation and the reasons why I know I can help you sell your house. Ask the question. Okay. Now, when you're doing something like that, and I've had that, I've had sellers say, no, Like, we know we got the best house, we got the best features, I said, you do. But all the buyers out there, all the buyers agents out there are going to take the actual stats. They're going to look at comparables. They're not just going to walk through your house and go, oh, this is a lovely house, seller wants this money. So you're going to need an agent that's going to be able to understand how you can take advantage of the buyer's psyche and how they make decisions. Or do you want somebody that just has a whole bunch of stats about themselves? Which one would you like to have to help you get the most money for your house? That's a lot different than going in and showing all your awards, all your sales, and going like, this is me. Okay? And then just your regular CMA off the MLS system. How are you doing your presentation? And, Julia talked about it a little bit on understanding how the buyer's psyche works. What is the decision making of the buyer? Who is the first, and I do this right in my listing presentation. I ask the sellers, who do you think is the biggest group of people that we need to sell your house to first? What do you think their answers are? What do you think their main answer is when I ask that question?
Whoever's going to pay top dollar.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Okay. Your answer needs to be all the other 85,000 realtors that are on the Ontario Real Estate Board. Because Mr. Seller, if you cannot have somebody that's going to be able to sell your house to all the other realtors who have then all their clients, you now have diminished the opportunity of obtaining the highest, best price because you've eliminated a lot of consumers. Do you understand that, Mr. Seller? Because I will guarantee you most sellers do not think about the fact that you have to make sure that you get the cooperation of the other realtors who have their clients under buyer representation agreements. So who do you have to sell the house to first? Right? Most agents are going to go in a listing presentation and they're not even going to think about that. Second is, so now we got to get the buyer agents. So all those other realtors that are out there, we have to get them sold on the fact that your house is the best value out there. So they make sure that their clients are aware of it. Yeah, consumers will be online, but we're going to talk about them next. But if you do not get the cooperation of these other agents, you've eliminated a lot of the buyer potential for your property. Okay? You got to make sure you talk about that. You got to talk about how good your relationships are with other agents. Okay? You have any testimonials from agents that have said, hey, you've been great to work with. Thanks so much for your cooperation. Thanks for getting back to me. Thanks for this. That needs to be in your presentation and you need to highlight that. That shows that you're respected in the industry. That shows that you have cooperation of the other realtors. In a fast-paced market, you don't need that. But in this normal real estate market, you absolutely need to have that cooperation. So make sure you present that. Okay. The next one are, how do the buyers make decisions? Are you structuring your presentation and the presentation of the house around how buyers make decisions? Why do buyers go online and flip through listings?
Because they don't want to make a commitment to a real estate agent.
Okay, that's one. Let's say they're even under buyer representation agreement.
There's just so much information available to the public now.
Yeah. So why are buyers online?
To educate themselves.
Educate, okay. Buyers are online for two reasons. They're looking for the deal that they may be out there. They're also looking to eliminate the listings they don't want to see. So when you are doing your listing presentation, are you focusing on how you are going to help the seller make their house stand out so that when the buyers are online, when the agents first get that notification that there's a new listing, how are you helping your sellers position their property to be able to stop the buyer from scrolling and look further at your listing, to stop the agent from deleting and making sure they look further at the listing? What are you doing? You better have an answer. Have a good presentation on that. Just that alone will set you aside from most agents. So how do you do that?
Sorry, Scott,
Yeah.
you're asking the question for what, MLS? How does an agent or how does somebody online? Or are you just talking about social media and things in general?
Both.
Okay, well then it's your MLS. You put your best picture forward to start with, and social media. You make it entertaining and interesting and well scripted and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Something that's catchy, edited
Yeah.
well.
So are you talking about that in your listing presentation? If you're not, you should be.
I mean, that's what your YouTube channel's for, Scott. You pull it up and throw them a couple of your key videos and say, here's an example. And I used to put in my my CMAs. I used to do a web address for each property. And
Okay.
I used to start with a coming soon on my signs when we were allowed to, with a web address saying, www.24tyler.com. So people would drive by and they weren't afraid to look at your website, but they didn't want to phone me and have an agent harass them. So in about a week, I'd get 200 organic hits on my video. And then as soon as I went live, I'd flip the script and I'd make it my MLS video so that anybody driving by, instead of seeing me sitting in front of the house saying coming soon, they'd see the full tour of the house. And, so I used to put that in my CMA. I'd give like 3 or 4 examples so people at their own leisure could go look it up. Now we might put a QR code or something in our CMA so they could hit your channel or your social media channel or a video specific.
Right. Great points, Hunter, but that is where you have to separate yourselves from a traditional listing presentation, more about stats and experience. That is where now you're basically saying, hey, I know the psyche of the buyers. I know as soon as the new listing hits, even before the listing hits, what we're trying to do is capture those online consumers that are now scrolling. How do we stop them from scrolling? And 2, what are we doing to excite the other realtors about this new listing? Okay. So you have to make sure you present that. A lot of times where you're seeing now is agents are saying, well, we offer staging. Great. How is that? That's great, you're going to offer staging, but how is that going to help? Are you describing how the property you're in, what are you going to do to make that property highlight better or highlight certain features about that for the buyer that is the right buyer for that property? Nancy, you had a thought?
Well, I did have a thought. I also push, you said getting other agents excited about the property. That's where that MLS tour that I do every other
Yeah.
Thursday comes in, when we all like pile through and talk about prices and talk about, whatever. And sometimes an agent will just be like, I've got somebody for this property. I've done it myself.
Yeah. Good.
And
Scott,
Yeah.
for you, you made a comment about staging. Years ago, when we were very active on doing some pretty creative staging, we took photographs and just as an idea for people. If you say you get a listing and it's been on the market last year and it didn't sell, and you come in and you're going to stage it and all the rest, so make sure. And I'm terrible at this. I always forget to take pre-pictures or before and after, but take the before pictures. And then once you've finished your staging, take your videographer's photograph, try to match them up so it's a side by side before and after. And, I have a PowerPoint presentation of about 8 properties. And when I go back and look at it, it is unbelievable the changes, when you make the bed with proper linen and hang some pictures, rearrange furniture. And that is a visual that just cannot go away. So you could keep that for your CMA presentations as an addendum that you pull out and say, oh, you're asking about staging. And then you've got that handy.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have any type of, stories that you can share, right? And even if it wasn't your listing, but somebody else in the company shared a story about, you know what, there was a house for sale, didn't sell. I ended up getting the listing. We went in, we staged it, we did this to it, and this is what that result was. So there is a benefit. And what you're trying to do, and when this is how you explain it to the seller, is step one is we have to create the actual discovery of your property for both the consumer and the agents. Right? How are they going to discover it? What's going to make them look a little bit more into it versus eliminating it? That's looking at how you would present and what are you going to do? What do you do differently as an agent to make sure that you're helping the seller present their most valuable property to be the biggest discovery of what the consumers are going to see? What is it that you're going to do? Make sure you present that, because that's going to be different than just a regular listing presentation. Okay, that's step one. What's step two?
Doing what you say you're going to do.
Very good. Okay.
that's almost exactly what I was just going to say. Following through, keeping in touch, sending the stats on how many people have looked at the property, because the homeowners like that, to see like how many views have people done on my property.
Yeah.
So keeping in touch, I think, is really, really big.
Yes, it is. Yeah. And then, so what's the next step in the buyer's decision? Now they've discovered, so you got the agent and the buyer have discovered, they've gone through their discovery process. The next thing that they're going to do is have a little bit of desire. And hopefully that desire is enough for them to want to look at the property. So how are you setting it up to make sure that once they've gone from discovery to desire, in your broker descriptions, in your communication, how easy are you relaying it is to see this property? How flexible are you as Mr. and Mrs. Seller? How flexible are you in allowing showings? Do you need 24, 48 hours before showings? Because if you do, unfortunately, what's going to happen is from the discovery to the desire if there's a big lapse in time, you're going to lose that buyer. So really, really important that we know and we have in place a way that your property can be shown with lots of flexibility. Do you have any issues with that? And you're going to get, well, I got a dog that I got to arrange for. I got this. How many times have you, as a buyer agent, found it difficult to get in to see a place and go, screw it. If it's this hard to see it, can you imagine trying to negotiate with these people, or what kind of, how are they, you know, what's it going to be like dealing with them if it's this difficult just to get in to see it? You ever done that? You ever had that situation? I've had my buyers where they go, Scott, we've tried to get into this place 2 or 3 times. Screw it. Let's move on to something else. So that is something you need to discuss in your listing presentation, is understanding the psyche of a buyer. So a brand new listing, hot new listing. Now you've got their interest. How easy can they get in to see it? How accommodating are you getting those buyers through? Are you relaying that to your sellers and saying, look, biggest thing for me is, one, I'm absolutely going to represent you. We're going to do, but it's really to accommodate the seller, the buyers. I want to make sure that the buyer's agent, if they have some difficulty getting in, I'm going to help them get in. Like this idea of, you know, telling agents that, look, if I show the property, I'm going to discount your commission because your people came up, or, you know, they popped, you know. I know it says excluding open houses. I got news for you. I'm going to make it so damn easy for these agents to get into my properties, because there's a lot of choice out there. The more you make it difficult for the agent to get in to show, or the consumer to see it, they will eliminate it. Nancy?
I put that clause in all of my listings, but I've mentioned this before. If an agent calls and they're honest and they just say, I can't make it, I'll show the property because it's in the best interest of my sellers.
Okay.
It's the ones that deceive that I'll scoop that 1%. And I've only had to exercise that once.
Okay.
There was a conversation on Hacks this week about this.
Oh, was there?
About
Okay.
there was, or one of the Facebook groups, but people are talking about, has anybody actually charged the 1% because they're showing? And there was a lot of feedback back and forth, and a lot of people came and said exactly this. It's get them in there no matter how you can. Don't worry about it. Like, sell the house.
Yeah.
And but a lot of people said exactly what Nancy just said. If they're honest with me, I'll just show it. But it's when they lie to me. Like, I'm in Waterloo right now. I've shown every single time, but you just have to be honest, and people treat you fairly. And how do you negotiate with somebody after you've made them mad because you've lied to them? So,
Well,
you're right, Nancy, 100%.
Well, yeah, my friend Louisa that unfortunately passed away, she was the one that kind of got me onto that, because I had a guy in Fort Erie send his client up. I did 2 showings and a home inspection, and he not once stepped foot on that property. So I took the 1%.
Yeah. Fair enough. Okay. But again, let's get back to, how easy are you making? We just talked about in broker remarks. I'm a nice agent. Call me. We'll talk about stuff. How open are you trying to be to the other broker, the other agents, to make sure that once they see your listing come out, it's created some, they're discovering it. Now they're going, next one is to the desire stage. How easy are you making it for them to go and, to get in? You got to explain that to your sellers, right? Because if you got sellers that go, well, you know, we can't show the house between this time and this time, this day or that day, you better let them know that's going to deflect the ability. And, you know, less flexibility doesn't mean you're going to get more money. It actually can work in reverse. Just something to think about that. Okay. And then the last one that we got to determine is you've now got, you know, you're talking to the sellers, you go, okay, here are the 3 steps. I'm going to show you how I'm going to help the consumer and the other agents discover your property. These are the things that we do. This is the online stuff. This is the videos that I do. This is the sign that we do. This is how we do the marketing to get that discovery. And then how we create the desire is we talk about all the different features. We talk about the speciality of your property. We present this in this way. And then the last one is simple. How do you get the other agent and the consumer to decide on moving forward with that property? What's the easiest way of getting a buyer and a buyer's agent to move forward with your listing?
I always encourage an offer.
Okay, so you encourage an offer.
The agent
Okay.
is kind of on borderline saying that the price may or may not be ideal. I'll say there's no harm in trying. At the
Yeah.
most, I'll get slapped on my end.
Yeah.
You won't see that. You know, they'll tell me off. But let's present it and keep the offer alive, even if it goes back and forth 20 times the way
So
we used to.
communication. Okay.
Yeah. We
Okay.
used to do that offer 10 times back and forth by fax.
Yeah.
You could barely read it in the 80s.
Yeah.
With the offer. But you used to do that. Today, everybody expects accept it or else.
Okay.
No, you have to kind of play the game again. Like,
Yeah.
that's how it's.
Okay. So communication a bit. Anybody else? You're representing the buyer. You go into a house and the agent says, by the way, I have a pre-listing home inspection. I can send it to you, no questions asked. They go into the house. There's all kinds of notes talking about this is what we did. This is the warranty that comes with this. Here's the package of all the manuals for every appliance here. I just did this with the house I sold in Etobicoke because they had done some renovations. We had a complete binder. We put the complete binder together. Here are all the contractors. Here's all the warranties. Here's all the before pictures. Here's all the after pictures. Here's the pre-list home inspection. We had notes everywhere talking about, you know, this was, you know, here's the history of the house. My grandmother was the owner, bought it from the builder. What have I done by doing all of that?
And you're telling the buyer that it's a well-maintained home. They're efficient, they're organized.
Nothing to hide.
Nothing to hide. Nothing to hide. The biggest factor why people will not make a decision on the home, and I guarantee you guys have heard this. As nice as the home is, there's just something, it just doesn't feel right. Do you know why it doesn't feel right? Because nobody has shared what they enjoy about living in the neighborhood, living in the house, the history of the house, the features that are here. When you move in, I'm going to make sure that you're taken care of. Here's all the manuals. Here's how to operate the stove that's coming. Here's the warranty for this. That's the extra step to make that hump from buyers and agents going through your property and looking at it as just a structure versus making it feel like somebody. I always ask this, can you see yourself living here? Yeah, Julie?
Have you ever been into a house that looks pretty good and then you realize, and then in the listing, they have a lot of as is condition comments. And I looked at one of these recently, and it automatically put a doubt in my client's mind. And I said, and is this going to have an effect on financing? So when you dig a little bit more, sometimes the as is means, the glass top on the stove is wrecked. It's as is. These are things that don't really require an as is comment. And you sure don't want to blow up your financing with something like that in the listing, because lenders look at the listing, all of it, the broker notes, everything.
Yeah.
So if you don't do that research, that whole comfortable, I'm not hiding anything, secrets make people suspicious. So it's an important feature.
But and that's why when you're in a listing presentation, if you come from the avenue of, here are the 3 steps that I know is how the buyers and buyers agents make their decisions. Not about, here's all the houses I've sold. Yeah, you can mention that. You talk about your experience, but how are you going to differentiate yourself? How are you going to best set up that property to be able to get it to that next step where people are discovering it? Now they got a desire to look at. Now, pretty well through all that desire, now you've made them comfortable with the fact about talking about the history of the home. And here's, by the way, here's all the manuals, here's everything here. Like, we are going to make this as easy as possible for you to understand that this is where you can live and this is how you can enjoy it. That's the difference between going in and doing a presentation on saying, this is why I'm going to help you get the most value possible, is because we're going to look at doing this from the psyche of the buyer, not just me as a listing agent, which most agents will do. So I thought it'd be really important to sort of like talk about that, because it makes a difference. It makes a big difference. I know when I'm dealing with my buyers, if we're going through property and all of a sudden we know, okay, yeah, the history is, like the one I sold in Kitchener, first, it was their first home. This was, the original owners, and this is what they've done. And yes, and this is, oh, by the way, that plug in the, in the eaves, well, that's actually where they plug their Christmas lights into, and it connects to the switch over here. That's the stuff that makes somebody as a buyer goes, okay, you know what? This is a home, not just a structure. Are you setting up your listings that way? Are you presenting, when you're doing a listing presentation, looking at it from the eyes of a buyer? You've always heard me say, look at stuff from the eyes of the buyer when you're, doing the listing side. Anyways, I thought I would just, I think it's really, really important to make sure that you're understanding that, and also understanding it as a buyer's agent. Like, I know when I'm going into a property and I see all this information they're sharing about the property and all of that, it just makes me feel way more comfortable. One, shows that the people are, usually if they're that detailed or that open, that you're going to get the truthful answers about what the heck's been going on with this house since they've lived there. Right? And that just makes the ease of the buyer making that decision moving forward. That's been my experience, and that's what I wanted to share today. There was an article in REM that came out recently, and I just thought, you know what? They touch on really good points, so I wanted to share that with you. That's where a lot of this stuff has come from. But to me, it makes sense. I know, like, even on the listing I have now on Lakeview and where am I? Stony Creek. We've attached a list of everything he's done to that house, right down to the costs, right down to everything, and really about what's staying, what's not staying, the details of everything, because it's really, now it's a custom built house. And I've got agents going to me, man, that is so detailed. I said, yeah, we're not hiding anything. Here's where the value, that's why the value is where it's at. This is how much money's gone into this place. This is, this is where it's not just a, typical countertop, special appliances. So how are you presenting your listings to get over those 3 steps of making it so that, they can discover it, they get a desire for it, and they're okay making it a decision to move forward with it? How easy are you making those 3 steps? That needs to be presented in your listing presentation. And then you better make sure, as Hunter and Nancy said, follow through on it. And tell them, this is what I've done. This is how we're doing this. Like right now, Jake and I, you're still working on that, targeting the yacht clubs and okay. So the property I have in Stony Creek, I believe the ideal buyer is going to be somebody, one, they need to have money, it's 2.2, but it's phenomenal with entertaining. It's phenomenal with a 6-car garage. It's like a phenomenal house. So we are now targeting, and I said to my clients, I said, my client's a tech guy. Like he runs his own home, like he is a builder. He did this one, but he does professional renovations. But his background is tech. So he is like, his renovation company keeps popping up on my feeds, and I'm thinking, crap, I got to make sure I'm hitting his feed. He's seeing our feeds on his side. So Jake and I brainstormed, and I said, my client's a member of the Porsche Club. Better to make sure that this gets fed to the Porsche company. He's a member of the Corvette Club. He's a member of a yacht club. So like I said, we got to hit all these different places. And, if we have to pay to get on their sites or somehow how we do this. So I just gave them that idea on the weekend. So this is now what we're working on, and making sure that the buyer for this property is going to come from somewhere where it's a golf club membership, somebody who has the funds enough to be members of clubs per se, will up the opportunity of finding the right buyer, especially if it's a car club, because of this garage is stunning. So are you doing that with your listings? And are you sharing that with your sellers? Need to be. Need to build that into your listing presentations to stand out from just the higher price person. Any of that make sense? Anybody doing that? Can you use some of the stuff we talked about today?
Yep, I have a listing appointment tomorrow, Julia. Sorry, when I was on my phone earlier, I screenshot it. I got a message through Facebook. Somebody wants me to list their house.
Nice.
I sent it to her.
Super. Congrats.
Yeah, tomorrow at noon.
Well, that's great. Okay. Anyway, that's what I wanted to share today. Obviously, July 17th as a recap. Don't forget, please respond yes or no. We are going to do the transition of a move before July 15th. Should be very little impact. It's just a matter of unplugging here and plugging the systems in there. So won't affect any administration in any way. And then just hopefully you get some good ideas from what we talked about today, implement them, and think about it from both the buyer side and the seller side. Okay. Anything else before we end off? No, we're all good? Okay. Thank you very much. Then next Wednesday, I do believe, is July 1st. So we are not going to be doing the session on Wednesday. I'm actually going to be at the Jays game, July 1st. So we will, then I will send out something as well. We are going to be doing the first Tuesday in July. And we're going to put that out as well for the 1 hour tech. We've got some interesting things happening in tech right now. Just give you a little snippet. Some of the AI platforms are now implemented that you can advertise on the platform. So we're going to talk about that. And also Google is now at a point where you can search properties through Google directly. So they've almost tried to create their own little MLS database. We're going to talk about that in that Tech Tuesday. But we'll put that out, okay? But that's what's coming up. Okay, there's nothing else. Everybody's good? Go Canada, go for soccer today.
Yeah.
All right. Take care, everybody. Good to see you.